Now, the other thing you want to do if you're trying to get better is to add healing foods. This, by the way, is what's missing from most plant-based diets when people get sick who are already plant-based. So let me ask you this. How many of you are already plant-based but still have some health issues that you haven't been able to get rid of? It's okay, guys. It's okay to be honest about it. I treat a lot of people now that are plant-based or vegan and have health issues because when they don't get better, they come to me because my understanding is on the cellular biology of how foods work in the body. And so I have vegan doctors and vegan celebrities who come to me when they get sick on the DL because they need to get better. And they're afraid that people will think, oh, plant-based isn't the key to getting better. That's not the case. I'll give you an example. Ellen Jaffe-Jones. How many of you guys know her? She lets me talk about it. So she's nope. So she is a famous vegan athlete. She has written tons of books. She wrote a book called Vegan for $4 a Day. It was a New York Times bestseller. And she used to be a chef for the McDougall program, teaching people how to cook plant-based food. So she's been plant-based for like decades. And just this past year, she got psoriasis. So she went to Dr. Khan, who out in Detroit, and he texted me, this is Ellen, fix her, which that's how New Yorkers and Northeast people talk. That's just like very to the point. And I said, okay, cool, I'll do that. So with her, she was not eating any animal products. And that's probably why it took her so long to get psoriasis, because she's in her 60s and she probably would have gotten it much younger. But she wasn't eating enough of the healing foods that allowed her body to repair itself. And so she eventually still got sick. What I can tell you, though, is 2 weeks later, after adding what I told her to, the psoriasis went away completely. All the plaques are gone. I just saw her at a conference. I saw her for the first time in person because I see everybody online now. That's all I do is I work online and see people from all over the world from my computer. And it was the first time I got to hug her. And she put my face into all of her slides and her talks. This is a lady who saved my life. But, you know, so a lot of times when people are plant-based, they're missing this. And definitely when people are not plant-based, they're missing this. So, so the healing foods are super important. And that's why I want to focus our time. So the first thing you need to do, which most people don't do, plant-based or not, is eat raw vegetables. Now, the #1 most commonly eaten vegetable in the US is ketchup. Yep. And that's followed by French fries. And raw vegetables, unheard of. So maybe a piece of lettuce on the burger. Maybe it's the kale that decorates the salad bar, right? So what I found is that raw vegetables specifically have a powerful potential to reverse illness quickly. They are, when it comes from the earth, the way it was created for us, or the way it was grown from the earth, it's intact. The vitamins, all the phytonutrients. You know, when the first medications came from the rainforest, right? It turns out what we need to heal actually grows on the planet itself, was not created in the lab. So when it comes out, nature, it works really well. And I have people focus on, you know, when I look at nutrient density, that means like how much good power is in the food. The most powerful foods you can eat are green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale and chard, and cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower. And when people do programs with me, I have them eat, I start them out at about 8 cups a day of raw vegetables. And by the time they get rolling, it's like 10 to 12 cups a day. That's what I ate to get better, by the way, about 10 to 12 cups of raw vegetables a day. How many of you guys eat that much raw vegetables a day? Right. Okay. So exactly. So if you find that you are either not having good energy, you're overweight and can't seem to lose it, or you're having a lot of inflammation in your body and you're missing your raw vegetables, you should be looking at that. And I really recommend when people are sick, you know, if you're healthy, you know, try to add at least half your plate to come from that. If you're sick, 80% or more. Right. So most people, their salad's like this big, and then they're like meat or pastas the rest of the plate. I want you to reverse that, have a big salad and maybe just put a little bit of like beans or cooked vegetables or something with it. You'll find that you feel better than you could ever imagine. It's really powerful how good you feel. The next thing is water. Most people are walking around severely dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated, #1 is you can't actually reverse the disease because all of the chemical pathways that are necessary for healing require water as an ingredient. So even if you eat, imagine eating 10 cups of vegetables a day and still not getting better because you didn't drink enough water. That's a bummer, right? So you really want to get your water for that reason. #2, being dehydrated is the #1 cause of the most expensive, or I guess the most lucrative drug sales we have. So #1 is the most common cause of headaches. When you're low in water, your body will pull water out of the cells up here and it causes your brain to tug on the sides of your head. So oftentimes you have a headache or migraine, just drinking a couple liters of water can clear it up. And it's also the #1 cause of constipation. So you think about how much money is made in medications for constipation and headaches, right? Constipation is a big one, and it causes a lot of distress because there's a lot of people walking around really grumpy and mad because they can't poop. And it's affecting marriages, and it's affecting lives. Water is supposed to be absorbed in your large intestine, and so your poop's supposed to come out like a lazy river on a nice little watery trail, right? So the water's supposed to guide it out. And if you're not drinking enough water, it gets stuck. Like, do you ever see one of those, like, those tubular slides they have at water parks, right? It's like if you were trying to go down one of those slides without any water in it, right? You'd just be like, ugh, right? That's what's happening if you're not drinking enough water. So if you find that you are pushing and you can't get your poop out, you're probably dehydrated. And the most common symptom of dehydration is lack of thirst. So when someone says, I don't drink because I'm just not thirsty, then I know for sure they're dehydrated. Because when people get on my program and I get them drinking 96 to 128 ounces a day, they're thirsty all the time. I have to tell them to slow down. So for healing, I usually recommend people have at least 96 ounces of water a day. You might have already figured out between all the fiber from the raw vegetables and the water, you're in the bathroom a lot. You're peeing and pooping as your next job. Can't fix that, guys. If you want to heal with food, it has to go in and it has to come out. So I haven't figured out a solution for that yet. I know I was in the bathroom a lot when I was healing, but it was worth it. I had the energy. It was all right. So, and the other thing that's missing from most diets and even plant-based diets is omega-3 fatty acids. I recommend people get them from flax and chia seeds. But how many of you guys have heard that, you should avoid all fats, eat super low fat diets? A lot of the plant-based docs will say that too. So unfortunately, omega-3s are kind of the baby that got thrown out with the bathwater when it comes to fats. So oils are bad for you. Saturated fats from animal products are bad for you. Omega-3s are essential, and I'm going to show you why really quick. So number one, they become a part of your cell membranes. So every cell in your body is filled with water. And then you have a phospholipid membrane around it that's made of fats. And that's to keep your cells waterproof, right? So you don't dissolve. You would be a puddle on the floor if you didn't have that. Now, omega-6 fats make your cells really rigid. So again, omega-6 comes from animal products and oils, right? Omega-3s make your cells really flexible so that when there's a signal that comes to your cell, it can receive it. It won't bounce off of it like it will if it's full of omega-6. And you can release toxins. So I'll show you here. So here's a healthy membrane with a lot of omega-3s. Nutrients go in and toxins come out. That's normal. But if you're omega-3 deprived, which most people are because you can't make omega-3s, you have to eat them, then you get a really tough membrane that nutrients can't get into. So you're eating 10 cups of vegetables a day and you can't even get any nutrients out of it. That's not going to work really well. And you're full of toxins. So it's also why people go through a detox period. Usually when they switch to my plan, they eat tons of omega-3s, they eat tons of nutrients, and all of a sudden they feel worse. It's not because the veggies are bad for them. It's because they're suddenly releasing all the toxins they've been carrying around. So it's kind of like the childbirth of getting healthy. You get worse and then it gets better afterwards. Another thing about omega-3s are really good for brain health. I'm not going to go into that too far here, but it does protect against dementia as well. And what really gets me excited is what it does for the immune system. So this is the source of your anti-inflammatory immune system. So if you think about what I've told you, if you're eating tons of foods that give you inflammatory immune cells, right? So you're eating all the animal products and processed foods and oils, and you're making all this inflammation, and then you need omega-3s to get rid of it, but most people aren't eating any of them at all, which makes sense why everybody's sick, right? Because we're creating inflammation every day, but we can't get rid of it. So I'm going to show you another one of those little chemical pathways to show you how it works again. You guys aren't scared this time because it was okay last time. So flax and chia seeds, they create something called ALA. And when we go down the pathway, it creates EPA and DHEA. Have you guys heard that? That's the omega-3s people have usually heard of, right? And that creates our anti-inflammatory immune cells. So that's the leukotriene B5 and prostaglandin E3. So I'm going to show you something really cool before we finish up here about how I actually hack people's health and why people get better so fast with me, because we get results faster than anyone. 3 to 6 weeks, I can usually create a dramatic change, if not complete change of people's health. This is part of why, because I hack into the omega-3 pathway, okay? So you guys ready for this? It's so cool. Okay, I get excited. I don't know if you guys are excited, but I'm excited. So these are those two pathways side by side, but nobody's nervous anymore, right? So that's the omega-6 pathway. Remember this? This is the vegetable oils, and it's, that creates the arachidonic acid that creates the inflammatory pathway, right? You guys remember that? Yeah. And then this is the omega-3 pathway. Flax and chia seeds come down, ALA, and create the anti-inflammatory pathway. Have you guys ever been told or heard that you can't convert flax or chia seeds into omega-3s efficiently? Have you guys ever heard that? Yeah, so this is why that tends to be the case. Because ALA and LA up here, they use the same enzyme to create their products. And this enzyme prefers the omega-6 pathway. I don't know why. Maybe it had a fight with ALA at some point in the past, but it really likes LA better. And if you eat animal fats and processed foods, even if you have a little bit of flax or chia, you're going to preferentially create the inflammatory immune cells. But when people are on my plan, we get rid of the oils and animal products and processed foods, right? And that leaves this entire enzyme, and we'll go over here. So bam, look at that. Oh my God, there's so much EPA, DHA, and now we're getting a huge amount of the anti-inflammatory cells made. Isn't that cool? So cool. And even more exciting is when you create EPA, it actually inhibits the breakdown of arachidonic acid into the inflammatory immune cells. So when you give up the animal products and the processed foods and you start flooding your body with omega-3s, you actually preferentially create an anti-inflammatory effect in your body, which is why people get better so fast, because they're not creating any inflammation and they're actively getting rid of it on a daily basis. So if you guys aren't eating omega-3s, it's time to start chowing down on these. I usually get people to eat about half a cup a day to start. And then when their gut adjusts, I start increasing it from there. So it's really, really, really important. If you find that you get constipated with too much seeds, you can also use a cold pressed flax oil. You got to keep that stuff refrigerated though, because it breaks down quickly. So those are the basics of the steps, and I go into the science more deeply either in my book of Lupus or when you come to my free classes so you can understand more about it. But I wanted to give you that because I think it's something that, you know, a lot of people don't, well, I know nobody else teaches this pathway, and I think it's important to understand. You know, I was one of those people that I always have to know why. I don't like just being told what to do. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me, I don't know. But I like to know, I love science and I love teaching science. So I thought you found that, hope you found that exciting. Now, before I go, I wanted to teach you a way that you can easily get all of this stuff in about 5 minutes a day. Would that be good? Cool. All right. So I don't know. A lot of people tell me that they don't like to just sit and eat kale all day like I do. Is that so? Yeah. I love kale and close-ups apparently. But when I talk about eating this much greens a day and omega-3s and all this water, it's intimidating for a lot of people. A lot of people come to me and they've been eating McDonald's and they've been eating all these horrible foods, and the idea of eating all these salads all day really freaks them out. So my husband and I created something that we call the smoothie solution. We figured out that if you put all the ingredients into a blender, preferably a high-speed blender like a Vitamix, you can get like 8 cups of greens in there, right? 75% greens, get that half a cup of flax or chia, and then put fruit in there, a couple cups of fruit, like pineapple and mangoes and bananas and things, and water. You can usually get about 40 ounces of water in there and blend it and put a straw in it. And you can literally sip that all day, and you're going to get in all the nutrients you need for the entire day through a straw. Isn't that cool? And most people are willing to do that. They don't want to sit and eat salad, but they will sit and sip. And there are some docs that have never used these who are like, oh, I don't think smoothies are good, but they've never tested it. I've been using smoothies for a decade now. They work really well, and people are healthy now because of them. So I want you guys to have free recipes. Do you guys like free recipes? Cool. Take a screenshot of this because this is where you can get them. SmoothieShred.com is a website my husband created because he wanted to start giving away as much information as possible for free to the public. Recipes, videos, we do Q&As, everything we can to help people because we think that this information should be free to everybody. Everybody should be able to get their health back, and it shouldn't be information that holds you back. I always say that you need to take back your life, and he always says you got to save your wife. So make sure you get a screenshot of that. And then if you go to Smoothie Shred, you'll see you can get recipes, look at all these smoothie recipes, all these videos we make every day. And then we also give you an invitation if you want to join our free Facebook community where we announce all our free classes and we do Q&As, and we just, you don't even have to be vegan to join the Facebook group. You just have to agree to start eating your vegetables. So we are very welcome, and we help people. It's the entry drug. It's like the gateway drug to becoming vegan. Is you start doing the smoothies all day, and you feel so good that you can't wait to have more vegetables. It really works. And there's people in there that are just losing weight, and they're reversing their diseases, all by just being a part of the free group. The other thing I said I would tell you how to do is to learn this stuff in detail. So if you've enjoyed me for an hour, imagine spending 5 with me. So I teach these free classes online. They're 3 separate classes, so I don't wear you out. And every class I go into detail about how it works and why. And the 3rd class is actually 2 hours of case studies showing you person after person exactly what they did and how they got better, so that people can get inspired and excited to see how this works. So my next classes are coming up on the 22nd, and they're online and they're 100% free. I'm just teaching my heart out, and I get messages from people all the time saying that they reverse their diseases just coming to the classes. So if you go to goodbyelupus.com, you'll see this banner. You can't miss it. It's this big. And you click the click here thing, see that? And you'll be able to register for those. And then I'll see you there. You can go, hey, I saw you in Honolulu, and we'll say hi to each other. So smoothieshred.com is, again, where you can join our family. And I just want to leave you with how to reach me. So if any of you guys want to reach me after this, if you're any of you on social media, so Instagram, I'm at Goodbye Lupus. I had to join Instagram for the youngins. I'm in my 40s, but I finally did it. Facebook, I'm Goodbye Lupus. What do you think I am on Twitter? No, I'm at Vegan Medical Doc. Okay. YouTube, I put videos out every day to inspire people and encourage people. I do videos of me coaching people if they give me permission, which they all do, so that anything I can do to just help people, I'm constantly putting stuff out there for them. These are my websites, goodbyelupus.com and Smoothie Shred. And that's my email. That's my personal email. And that's my personal number at the office. It's an electronic phone system. So you can send text messages, and you'll actually hear from me faster if you do. It takes me a long time to go through voicemails, but I text pretty quickly. So just take a screenshot of this page so that you have a way to reach me if you need to. I love hearing from people, and I love helping people. So I hope I inspired you. I hope I taught you something. And I'll be sticking around here to answer your questions too. So thank you guys so much. All right, so the question is about the difference between vegetables that are labeled organic and I guess ones that are just the regular kind. All right, so organic vegetables, there's a certain things that they have to abide by in order to be considered organic. So one is they have to have soil that's a better quality soil. So you get more nutrients because the soil is better quality. And number 2 is that they haven't used any kind of chemicals or pesticides on it. So whenever I get broccoli and I find a little worm in it, I'm like, that's organic, baby, because if a worm couldn't live on it, I don't want to eat it. But what I have found, though, is that you don't have to buy organic in order for it to work. When I recovered my health, I was an intern. I couldn't even, I had a $35,000 a year I was getting for being an intern, and my rent was $1,100 a month for my studio in LA. So I couldn't afford that, and I just bought whatever produce I could, and I still reversed my disease. So the benefits you get from the vegetables outweigh potential danger from pesticides and things, but it's still better if you can to buy organic or to buy certain ones organic. Like if you look online, the daily, there's ones that, now I just lost, I'm getting Gregor's Daily Dozen in my head, but there's the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. There it is. So if you Google online, you can find which vegetables and fruits are more likely to contain high pesticides and which aren't. So I always buy my greens organic, but like bananas, if there's not organic ones around, they don't usually have high pesticide content. So you're asking if what makes my diet unique, is it just the omega-3s? So it is the focus on, 1, raw produce. Usually when people go plant-based, they eat lots of cooked vegetables, but they're not getting the raw vegetables in. Number 2 is the omega-3 content. And 3 is the focus on water. Nobody ever talks about how essential water is for disease recovery. So that's why I focused on those things today. Yeah. And so if you're already healthy, just add what you're missing. If you just add that blender a day, you're going to find that you have tons of energy, magnificent bowel movements. You're not going to have a lot of aches and pains at all. You're going to find that you get younger because it makes your skin glow. So it just gives you a lot of benefits if you're healthy. And if you're unhealthy, you're going to start feeling a lot better. Sure. So the question is about, there's a lot of popularity with the Mediterranean diet. And so people go, oh, people who eat Mediterranean diet tend to be healthier than Americans. Maybe it's because they eat all that olive oil. Let's just drink olive oil. No, really, there's people who do that. So what they've found is, and there's been a lot of recent studies looking at it, is that people who live in the Mediterranean tend to eat tons of fresh fruits and vegetables. They tend to eat much less meat. It might just be a little piece of their plate instead of the majority of their plate. And so the olive oil doesn't really affect them as negatively. Also, olive oil itself is not inflammatory. So it's not part of the inflammatory pathway I showed. It's the only oil that's not. All the other ones, the sesame oil, the safflower oil, all those other ones are inflammatory. Olive oil is an omega-9. It's not essentially inflammatory. However, it does damage your blood vessels, your endothelial layer of your blood vessels. So it's bad for people who have heart disease. But that's why people have gotten away with that. But it's not the olive oil that's causing their health. It's in spite of the oils that they tend to be healthier. In the back. Okay, so the question is that a lot of times if someone has diabetes, their doctor will say to have no more than 5 to 10% fat from your diet. Now, if you have type 2 diabetes or even type 1 diabetes, you really need to make sure you stay away from animal products, because what they found is the cause of type 2 diabetes, the insulin resistance, comes from the saturated fat coating your muscle cells and blocking your insulin receptors. So what they find is when you get rid of animal fat, the insulin receptors are exposed and blood sugar comes down really quickly because now insulin can bind and your blood sugar goes down. So that is definitely true. However, omega-3s do not do that. Omega-3s actually accelerate the recovery from diabetes. So like you saw with Nir, he was doing half a cup or more a day of omega-3s and he was no longer diabetic at all within 6 weeks. So that the omega-3 fatty acids do not behave like other fats. You know, I've heard some people missay, oh, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. It's not true. There are different types of fat, and some fats become cells, like omega-3s. They become cells, part of your cell membranes. They become your anti-inflammatory immune cells. They do not become body fat. They do not block insulin receptors. Thank you again.
Mahalo to all of you for coming, and have a safe return home. Good night, everyone.